Welcome to Redemption Radio, week 2. Uh, we're going to start off a little bit differently here. I think Hate had some stuff he wanted to say, so I'm going to give the floor to you.
Thanks, Bones. We're going to do things, like you said, a little bit different this week. I just wanted to start off because obviously there's kind of the elephant in the room that happened with the high-profile player in week 2 saying some pretty unsavory things in a server after a game was completed between two of the league's top teams. Our stance on this, whether it's WDL Radio, Vengeance Radio, or now Redemption Radio, our stance on this is that we're not going to discuss it. We're not going to discuss the severity of the discipline. We're not going to discuss whatever perceived nuance there is about it. And we're not going to discuss any other aspects about it. The administration stance on this is simple. Discipline has been handed down. It's resolved. If there's anything else further, there'll be additional infractions. And that's where it's going to be at. The purpose of this show is to talk about the players who show up and show out every week and do things the right way. We want to talk about some of the incredible games that are played while we also highlight some of the crazy plays that occur during those, and we look at the stats and we talk about it. So if we were to take this time to talk about what actually happened and all of the aspects with it, we'd be taking away from those players who did things the right way. We don't reward children for acting like children. We sit them in timeout. And that's what's happening with the person involved. And going forward, that's going to be our stance on everything that we do. We're not going to talk about that because that's not what this is about. So I just want to thank these guys, obviously, because they come in, they do a great job. We've got two administrators here with us. And that was something that we talked about before we did this show, is that we were all in agreement. That's not going to happen. So you can put it in the comments. You can talk about it all you want. We're not going to talk about it. So if you want to talk about it amongst yourselves, that's fine, but that's not the point of the show. So we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks, Bones. I appreciate it. So back to you.
Okay. I'm muted. No, I'm not muted. Welcome back to our regularly scheduled Redemption Radio. It is week 2, the end of week 2, and I am joined, same guest as last week, Stal, Denzoa, and Hate Daddy.
Yo.
What's
How's
up,
it going?
fellas?
Hey.
I thought we had a really exciting week of games. I'll go through the standings real fast. FU, they won their second game in a row, so they sit at the top with 10 points, tied with NLG. They also won their second game of the season, so both of those two teams sit at the top of the leaderboard with 10 points. In third and fourth, we actually did have a split. A team that won last week did lose this week, so we've got two teams with 5 points. That's Very Bad Mothers and the Net Boys, and then sitting in last, we've got fifth and sixth here, ORB and TWT. So, looking at the first game of the week, and I might not be getting it in the order that they were played, but the order that we're going to talk about them is alphabetical. So DMB versus Orb. So DMB was a team that did not win in week 1, and I know we talked about, well, is it the chemistry of the team? Is it, them not taking it too seriously, or just trying to figure it out? It's only week 1, that kind of thing. We all had, I think we all had sort of different theories as to why it was happening, but they came out in their week 2 game against ORB in round 1, and they took round 1 3-2. So everyone on DNB scored a flag, and so it was pretty well rounded. All pretty, we had actually Salt Mine, who clocked in at 97 frags, so that's pretty impressive. ORB, they scored 2. They had Nexus and ACC. Nexus came in with 90 frags, so that's pretty good as well. And then round 2 was a little bit less close. It seemed like, they kept it close in round 1. Round 2, DMB just kind of took over, and we got XWiz, who scored 4 flags in round 2, and ORB only able to take 1 flag. So quick turnaround from week 1 to week 2, it feels like, and kind of a 180 for DMB. How do you guys think this game went for them?
I guess I'll go ahead. So I kind of said last week that I thought that I expected DMB to have a bounce back game. I didn't really think that their match against NLG was representative of what they were as a team. I thought they just had pretty much gotten off to a bad start and things kind of spiraled. But I also said I thought that NLG was basically a better version of them, and you have those mirror matchups that happen like that, and they tend to be really one-sided. And unsurprisingly, they came out this week close round, and then a stomp, right? I think the most interesting thing to me was Salt Mine. Salt Mine was playing in place of Ed, and that is surprising. I don't know if it was an issue of practicing, or if they just felt like Salt Mine was better in this map, or maybe just better for the rotation going forward. Bones, during the draft show, you and I were raving about how Salt Mine was just sitting there not being drafted. And he kind of really showed you what he's capable of when you put him on a competent team. So I'm not going to say this is a coming out party, because anybody that knows anything about the competitive community knows how good he is. So I look at this game. I'm happy that Seneca's back in for ORB. Obviously, it didn't make too much of a difference, but I think the concept of Seneca, ACC, and Nexus makes the most sense. So now the question is now you're looking at 0-2 if you're ORB, like, where do you go next? Because DMB has put themselves in a better position going 1-1, to make the postseason, whereas ORB at 0-2, like, man, that's a tough ask. Now you basically got to, if you're ORB, it's like it's panic time. You got to win out. So I look at the match, I look at the frags, I look at the I think it's the typical it's the typical setup that you see, right? Like you see the first round is close, kind of losing in heartbreaking fashion, and the second round, everything just kind of falls apart relatively quickly. So, props to DMB. ORB got to go back and fix some things, and hopefully it's not too late to get the ship right. But man, time is ticking.
Yeah.
Well, the first game was definitely like really close. I don't know if anyone else watched it. I believe that the last cap was like towards the last couple minutes of the round.
It was, yeah. I think it was actually like around 1:45. I thought I watched a demo, so I don't, and it was back
same.
on.
I was in the server, but I was busy working.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really close game. I think Salt Mine was definitely the deciding factor in round one. Round two, as we could see, Wiz had 4 caps and was leading frags on his team. So he definitely turned it up in round two and really carried that round for his team. It was pretty nice to watch. Like I watched it mostly from his POV, and it was pretty cool. As for ORB, maybe lack of practice. I didn't really see them practicing all that much this week. Could be a deciding factor. Yeah, I see what you're saying, OJ, but after a 3-2 loss and like the last cap being at like less than 2 minutes into the round, it's hard to make that call. Maybe they could have done better with Shane in the lineup, but I don't know if that was the right choice.
Yeah, losing a close game isn't the reason to bench anybody.
I mean, you could always do mid-round swaps. If you see
Yeah.
things aren't going well, just swap it out mid-round. Just make sure that the person who's joining isn't joining before the person spectates.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I feel like, they had a good game first round. So there's no reason to go and switch it up, because honestly, if you have good momentum going and you only lose out by 1 flag, well, you're usually still thinking to yourself, we are doing really good, right? It's a good team we're up against. So why would we like ruin our momentum by possibly switching in a new player and maybe lose even harder, right? You might as well just keep the same player in if he's still motivated and you guys are still in the game and you want to keep it going. Then it's best to keep that momentum going to round 2 and try to turn it back. It's just too bad, because I bet they probably didn't expect, well, Xwiz to just turn it up to 11 all of a sudden and go most frags and 4 caps. You'll never know that. It probably would have been the same result even if Shane was in the game, I think, at least.
Yeah, I don't see. I guess my thing is, what is Shane going to do for you that Seneca wasn't going to do? I mean,
Exactly.
the first round, the issue isn't defense or fragging. It's a close game. And the second round, you get stomped. You neither score a lot nor defend well. So what taking him out isn't going to change anything, especially if, Style had mentioned that there wasn't a lot of practice that he saw. If there wasn't practice, or maybe there was very little, maybe Seneca's the only one who got the practice time in. So why would you play somebody who hasn't practiced? I mean, look, at this point, you're 0-2, right? And they went into that game, I'm sure, realizing that they're going up against a good DMB team. Yeah, DMB got smoked the first week. But look who's on that team. Like, you can't tell me with a straight face that you see the members on that team and aren't thinking to yourself, like, hey, we got to take these guys seriously. This is a good team. Don't let last week fool you. And now it's 0-2. Like, you gotta throw something at the wall and hope it sticks at this point. And I think we all kind of agreed at the beginning of the, at week one, at the end of week one, rather, that we thought it made more sense for them to have Seneca in the lineup. I mean,
Yeah.
they're losing out on too much to not have him in the lineup. So now if the issue is just practice, well, it doesn't matter what lineup you have. If you're not well versed in the map and you don't have chemistry and cohesion, you're going to lose, especially against a good team.
Yeah, that's true.
There's another thing I noticed from ORB was that they weren't really playing the map offensively correctly. They were just trying to run in and run out. When I played my games, I was playing mid, and sometimes when I did get touches, I felt like delaying inside your base when you have the touch was always the best option because you get your team the opportunity to push the mid and clear out for you as you run out. Just running out, you're running into a team that's probably turning around at mid once the flag's out or once the defender calls it that it's been touched and where he's going. So yeah, you gotta delay the exit. That's the only way to get out and get a cap.
Yeah.
Or else
Yeah,
you
that's
just
true.
you're hoping for lucky spawns, and at that point you might as well just roll a dice.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people have been doing in practice as well. It's just you touch the flag, delay it, call it out, wait for your team to push up because that map is basically it's really dangerous. Like you can get in through a lot of ways and you can get out through a lot of ways. And yeah, I feel like if you're just like running and gunning the whole time, you're just touching the flag, going out immediately. What happens is the enemy team turns around, frags you, defense returns it, 2 players push up, and your team is possibly still in that situation where they're just trying to move past the middle ground. So basically, nothing in the game is changing. There's not even any pressure being applied yet. The pressure comes from actually touching the flag, holding it, making the enemy wonder, like, damn, where the hell is this guy? Right? Making them look for you. So you get an opening in their defense because obviously, like the flag runner will try to touch your flag, but it's only a one-on-one situation because the middle is going to fall back because there's so many openings for you to exit through that the defense is going to need help sometimes, especially if you've got a good runner, which Seneca is. He would have gotten out a lot more if he tried it a little slower, as you said. So yeah, that's just, that's those kind of decisions. Usually you make them in the moment. Maybe you got nervous, maybe you got pressured, and maybe that's why they tried to just
Lack of practice.
apply
You figure
just
out while they're playing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very true.
Maybe they just figured like this is one of those maps where you have to apply pressure, just keep touching, but that's just not the map for that kind of play style. It involves more than that. So yeah.
Quality touches. And again,
Yeah.
practice. I mean, that's what it is. And quality touches is everything in every map. But yeah, I mean, it just looked out of sorts. I mean, there's no other way to say it.
Exactly.
I think this map's tough because there's so many spawns in the middle. And yeah, I would agree. I think probably holding back, like, unless you can do like a really fast, like, lower the lift, grab the flag, run out before the lift comes back up. It's almost better to wait. And to me, that run is really hard, to do that. Could just because I'm old. But like, I think it's better to just let your team catch up to what's going on because I feel like a lot of times that map you end up having situations where both teams have the flag, and it's kind of a chaotic map. Like it seems really simple, but it's not compulsive simplicity. It's very confusing.
Compulsive complexity.
Confusedity. So yeah, I think it just leaves ORB in a tough spot.
Yeah. You almost need to train flags, honestly. I mean, watching all the successful teams over the course of this week, you saw a lot of caps where they were assists and pickups. The mid is just way too dense to get through with, you know what I mean? With the spawns, like you said, Bones, it's like, man, you clear their base, you come out, 2 of you, and then the other 2 guys spawn right next to you. And you're just like, dude, like, come on. Like, how am I ever going to get a cap here?
Human arthritis.
I do have carpal tunnel. That's not a lie.
That's
so
sucks.
yeah.
Sorry.
Well, whatever. I did. It was all in the name of Doom, really. So it's fine. But yeah. So that leaves ORB in a not such a great situation. But for DMB, that puts them back into the conversation. Which I think we kind of expected would happen. That team is too talented to not figure things out. This is a weird brand new map week 1, so it'll be interesting to see how things go once they make it into the season. But
especially with that lineup.
Yeah, it was interesting that they sat Ed, but sometimes I don't know. You just kind of go with like they have really good options. Like it's not to say that there are a ton of people equal to Ed, but they have the luxury of kind of like interchangeable players on their team. So
yeah,
that's a value of having a starter level 4th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the thing with Ed is
Everyone
like,
has.
Ed is really reliable when he's being reliable, if that makes sense. Sometimes he has his days where he's just like not in the game. And Saltmine is that kind of guy, just pure focus. He just focuses on a game. He dies and he's like, next play. Simple as that.
Yeah.
That's all he thinks about, next play. And he moves on and he tries to find different ways to do things. Whereas Ed has the same mentality sometimes, but he can sometimes have those days where he's just not in the right mindset and can give up a little more easily on just like trying to come back from a tough situation.
I think also sometimes you can reach a certain skill level, and when you've accomplished everything that you can accomplish, it's like, not to say that your care level completely goes away, but like, I don't know. I don't know how many seasons it took for me to actually win something. I never won in the IDL, so that's at least 12 seasons, right? Once I did that, I was like, oh, cool, I want to do it again. And then I did it twice. I was like, like, I guess if it doesn't happen, like, I'll try my hardest, but I feel like a little bit of that, like, desire goes away to
I know
really
exactly what you mean.
commit to everything.
But I think with Ed, it's a little bit different because this isn't like Ed's level of commitment and investment has always been something. Like, that's always been the asterisk next to him. Like, well, which Ed are you going to get? Because if you get the Ed that's committed and into it, you're getting a top 3 player in the league. If you get the Ed that's not committed and not into it, good luck. Like, it can damn near bring your team down. Because if you're depending on him and he's not being reliable, and that's always the trick. I mean, the potential there is enormous. I've always maintained in the 2 decades of competitive Doom that I've played and spectated, Ed is pound for pound one of the best pure mechanical players I've ever seen. I mean, just raw everything. But if he's not into it, like, doesn't mean anything. So, I mean, like, you guys, I mean, Zandronum said it best about, if you know what I mean, is Ed going to be reliable today, or is, instead of waking up and choosing, they say, you woke up and chose violence. Well, Ed woke up today and chose non-compliance. And I mean, that's just what you get. Like, it's either he's in it or he's not. And if he's not, boy, you better be happy you got Saltmine.
True.
Yeah, they built their backup system really well. So hats off to them figuring out week 2. ORB's got to go back to the drawing board and figure out, and we'll get to their week 3 game in a little bit. But jumping ahead to the second game, which was the other team that won week 1, that also won week 2, NLG. They had a match against TWT. So TWT, they're a really well-rounded, formed team, but it seems like they haven't. Either they've gone against really good teams the first 2 weeks, or they just have not quite figured out their positioning. If you take a look at round 1 of that match, a very close game. I don't know when the flag was scored, but there was only one flag scored in the game. It was by Ross King on NLG, so they took it 1-0. And
it was fairly early on in the game.
Okay,
if I'm not mistaken.
That's a tough map to have like an early score on, because you can kind of you can do the 2D thing, which I love to do that. You can just basically clamp down on the other team. So I don't know if that had an effect on round 2, which is a bit of a different story because NLG took it 5-1. So I don't know if TWT was like, well, we got to be a little bit more offensive in round 2, and that came back to bite them. So what do you guys think? Because it looks like NLG is just sort of on cruise control at this point, not cruise control, but you know what I'm saying. And TWT has had some unfortunate matches where I feel like they should have been more in it than they have been.
This was one of those games where I was really screaming at my monitor. Because, as I said on the last radio, I thought TWT was going to win. And honestly, say what you want, but they had the chance. They had so many chances. I was watching this game closely. I was with friends on voice chat, commentating the game, basically. And I was so disappointed. first round, that stuff happens. They get a cap, you're trying your best, but the team goes defensive and they're really trying to hold you out and they're trying to keep the pressure up and make sure you don't cap back on them because they ideally want to keep that 1-0 lead and maybe make it a 2-0. You never know. But I noticed like Dastin and Tiger were going to offense a lot and Warrior was holding his own. And then the first round ended and I was kind of disappointed because, they tried their hardest. But I thought to myself, like, this is just them proving to everybody, like, hey, whatever you said, NLG is going to win. No, we're keeping it close. We got a 1-0. Screw this game. Round 1, over. We don't care. We're going to take it to round 2 and win in 3. That's what I expected. Then you see round 2 coming up. And I was keeping a close eye on all 3 players. And the issue is the first game broke them mentally. That's all it was. They started making stupid mistakes they did not make in round 1. Like, for example, Warrior would try to push out more, leaving openings for the enemy to get in from behind, grabbing the flag, and they get out, which was a cap situation more than once. Dastin and Tiger, they started running like more mindlessly, in my opinion. They didn't time their runs together anymore. They wouldn't go in with 2 of them, like one on the side and one in the window. They would go like one enters the window, dies, and the other goes in the side and then tries to touch the flag, dies, and then the other one goes in again and again and again and again, and you're not going together anymore. Leaving a lot of people on mid, leaving Warrior, for example, to have 2 people running against him almost the whole time, which, yeah, if you've got Ross and Legion running on you both at the same time, like you've got 2 seasoned runners coming for you, you're screwed. There's nothing you can do about that. And it was so painful to watch, honestly. It's sad because TWT had him. They could have had him in round 2 easily if they just did exactly what they did in round 1 and went for that one cap. Just one cap, and then keep applying pressure over and over, and they would have had it. I swear to God, I stand by this. TWT had everything they needed to win this game. It's just sad that, nerves can get to you in a game. You're really nervous. And maybe, you're in round 2 and you're thinking to yourself, like, damn, maybe everybody was right. Maybe we don't have what it takes to beat NLG. Like, we already lost round 1. What do we do? And then, you start going down that hole of just pure self-doubt. I had that before. Like, you start thinking that and you lose a game because of it. It happens. I think that's basically what happened because, Warrior was doing a solid job as defense. Really good, extremely well actually, because keeping out Rosking and Legion both in round 1, yeah, that's an accomplishment in my eyes. You really have to be a really good defense to do that. Yeah, as X was said, maybe the lack of communication, because I don't know if Warrior's using his microphone. I know Omar used to way back in the day, but I haven't heard him talk in a while. Warrior, never heard him. Dastin tries to sometimes, but Tiger doesn't use his microphone. So yeah, maybe it's just indeed the lack of communication.
Well, it's coming through the demo. I kind of saw that they were like going over strategy in the intermission on team chat, so I would assume that there was no communication, or very little, if there was any. It's very unfortunate because, like, I believe TWT could have done a lot better if they had communications. But I mean, we all know these guys, these Das and Tiger, they don't have mics, or they don't want to talk, or refuse to talk, or whatever the case is. So you have to keep that in mind when you're drafting these people. I know Tiger was the captain, but he drafted Dastin, who sometimes talks, sometimes doesn't. Same with Warrior. I don't know if he speaks or not. I never had him on my team or ever heard him speak. But yeah, it was a close round 1. I believe round 2, they probably switched strategy and it just didn't work for them, and it was too late for them to switch it back.
Yeah, so I this is one where I watched it. I didn't actually watch the demo in round 2 because I saw the screenshot. So I was like, there's really nothing for me to watch because I don't have to watch it. I already know what happened. And it's funny, Bones posted the Ruskin quote. I mean, round 1, if you look at the stats, it looks like, oh, Warrior did great. But the reality is this was a case where Legion and Ross King are pressuring the flag a ton. If you had stats, I am sure they doubled the touches. And it put TWT in a position where whether it's Dastin or whether it's Tiger, they're constantly dropping back. And this nonstop pressure and flag touches going into TWT's base made it such that, okay, well, if I'm NLG and I'm seeing this, and we got a Mar back there who's cleaning house every time they come in, why do we need to stop this? We get one cap and we just keep the pressure up, and they're going to keep on dropping guys back. They're never going to score on us. Not with Amar back there cooking. And that's exactly what round one was. I mean, they had chances. Denzo is right. They had chances. Even despite the fact that they weren't organized, even despite the fact that they weren't playing well, they had chances to get some caps across. But I would also say that if you don't have any sort of cohesion like that, and a team is just pressuring you to death like that, and you don't have any organization offensively, you're never going to score on a map like that against a top level fragger like Amar. And round two was, well, they realized, okay, well, shoot, we have to do more offensively. And what did that do? That put Warrior on an island and he got exposed. And I'm not even going to fault Warrior for that, because you put the best defenders in the league against a duo of Ross King and Legion, and they're not going to stop them. But I always caution people, man. Like, I always caution people when you look at teams that play against Ross King styles, don't get too high on the frags against them. Because Ross King will tell you himself, and it's been exemplified in his play, he does not care if he dies a lot because he's valuing touches over frags. So it'll make it look like, oh, wow, that defender did really well. Okay, but like, did he though? Because they lost 5-0. You know? So obviously 1-0 is a very close score. It's disheartening, but it's like, looking at the demo, I just never felt like, aside from a couple of like really tragic botches, I never felt there was any danger for them to score. And I think NLG felt that too, so they kept the pressure on.
Yeah.
So where does TWT go from here? Because we're in the middle of the season now. They've got 2 weeks to figure things out. Were they matchup issues, or are there deeper issues within the lineup of their team, the positions they're playing? Is it a practice problem? What do you guys think is the solution?
I don't think it's a practice problem at all. I've seen them practice quite a bit. I've helped them practice as well. And honestly, in practice, they weren't doing so bad. But you got to keep in mind, and this is fact, in practice, the team that is helping you practice is usually not on comms.
Yeah, exactly.
They're just playing like it's Prive. And if they're not communicating with each other, I mean, you know, if you have Warrior using the microphone, because somebody said Warrior was using his microphone, he was getting more comfortable with it. As a defense player, that's kind of useless. I don't, you know, like, it's good that you can tell them where the enemy flag runner is exiting, but it's already too late, because you're supposed to be getting told where they're coming in from so you can anticipate. So that's the big part about being defense. You get told somebody coming side, you wait, they open a lift, pre-fire, they die. Simple as that. Or you're ready to like stock up on health, knowing there's a guy getting closer. You take the health pickups away so the enemy can't get him on the way out, and you're a little bit higher on health as well, and you can take him down. And I think it's more of an issue they're going to have to work on, finding a way to get good communication. They're going to have to go map by map and try to put up some binds, make names for whatever corridors they can take. On week 3, for example, let's say, you know, you have main, bottom main, top main, back tunnel, whatever, you know, they're going to have to figure something out with that, because they're really going to have to tell Warrior where the enemies are coming from, or he's going to have a hard time. Regardless of all of that, he did a really good job. And that's the crazy thing. He did a really solid job. Even if he barely had any comms, he played a solid like defense job against Ross King and Legion. You got to give him that. But yeah, I think it's just going to come down to being able to communicate with each other, because honestly, on paper, they're really good players. Every single one of them. They have what it takes to go to the playoffs. They really do.
Yeah, but the league is so tight and competitive. I mean, it's marginal differences that are separating teams now. And
Yeah.
like you said, I mean, if they're not getting that communication in as well as quality practice, because like as a captain, I was always really big at trying to find teams that would practice against us that were on comms. Because if I'm just beating 3 guys that just were thrown together last second, it's like, well, not that there's really much of a public scene anymore, but like that would be the equivalent of us going into a public server and just beating up on a bunch of noobs. Not that the players that we're playing against are noobs, but like when you have really supreme communication, that's such a huge advantage. So that alone is gonna, like, you should win a game pretty comfortably, unless there's just a huge talent disparity. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you, Denzo. I think TWT has everything they need to be a championship caliber team. It's just if the communication isn't going to be there. And I think, to be clear, I think you can develop a communicative system with binds.
Yep.
And you could
Exactly.
do that ahead of time. But if you're not doing that ahead of time and you're doing that and strategizing that in the middle of the game, because if anything, like if that's the way that you're going to practice your communication, you're going to need to practice more, not less, because you're going to have to practice all of that. So
Yeah.
Well, let's jump into the last game of the week, which was VBM versus FU, which uh,
Infamous game.
yeah, the infamous game. So round one, it looks like FU took that pretty handily. I don't know how you felt about that, but it was 5-2, and then round two was a little bit closer. It went the full 10 minutes, so it was a 2-1 kind of game. I know that Denzoa, you did not play, but you were there. So between both you and Stal, please talk to us about the game.
Well, honestly, if you want my honest opinion, I
No, I'd
sat
like for you to
out.
lie, actually. Completely.
Yeah, I got benched because I'm just too bad. So I'm traded
Well,
off
see,
to
that's the
Ninja Dog's
truth,
team.
though. Okay, I'm stopping.
No, no. So yeah, it's just I wanted to sit this game out. You know, I saw the Sparrow, Poto, and Stal practicing together, and they were just doing so well. It's not that we were playing bad with me on the team. You know, it was pretty similar in how it went, but it's just that OJ, he's just a more solid CTF player. He knows what to do when stuff is going bad, whereas I do as well, but you know, he knows it better. He's faster to think about stuff like that. If you saw him and Stal playing together compared to me and Stal playing together, I would sit back more often than OJ would. And OJ would just push up to mid every single time. As soon as he got the chance, he'd be out in mid fragging everybody. And I 100% knew beforehand that OJ was going to annoy Langrenus with his playstyle because, you know, OJ is a very good player and he has high ping. And a lot of people hide behind that excuse sometimes, like, oh, high ping player shot me behind the wall. I do too
Langrenus
sometimes,
does
don't get me
too.
wrong. What?
Langrenus does too. They're both playing on an
Exactly.
American.
Yeah. So the
Sorry,
funny thing
sorry.
to
The
me
best
was,
part
it's
about
okay.
Doom now is that you can actually have high pinging players play equally with everybody else.
Yep.
Like, I think a lot of these players, at least the older ones, don't like higher ping players because they're used to the way that Z-Damon was in like 2004, where if your ping was over 80, you were fucked.
Exactly.
That's it.
Langrenus is like
That's kind of my
19.
rant.
He wasn't even alive in 2004.
He's 20.
Well,
But
Is he actually 20?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, so he's
But
not even from our era.
yeah, so like
Whatever.
I knew beforehand that if I sat out and I let OJ, Style, and Poto play together, it would have been like way better than putting me out there. And I saw that during the actual games as well. Round one was just, man, I was just proud of seeing them. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I was looking there like a proud father, like, yeah, my boys. I was so happy seeing them win that round. I was like, damn. I couldn't see myself doing that, honestly. I figured like if I was gonna play against them, I would be choking sometimes because you know, like last CTF season in the WDL, you know, like we lost in like the semifinals, and you know, I still sometimes think about that. I'm like, I don't want to let Poto down. And I already didn't have that great of a week. Had a lot of stuff happen in real life, and I was like, I'm just not in the right mindset. Sometimes I was complaining during practice, and I figured like it's just better to let OJ and Style go. They have such good like synergy, such good momentum, especially in round two. Because I was ready to join at one point when OJ started lagging, but I just told him like, bro, if you can keep playing, just keep that momentum. Like I said about like ORB with Seneca, if you've got that momentum going, like a 5-cap win, just keep it going. Just keep it going. You got this. Like your team is already doing really solid. So yeah, I'm proud of them. I'm really proud of them.
All
I would
right.
like to start off
Go
and
ahead,
mention
Sal.
that at week 1 I was actually supposed to be benched, and the Sparrow was supposed to be in. So that just goes to show like our lineup is very versatile. Anyone could be benched. Hell, even Poto might be benched one week. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, we all played really well. I think having Poto not being able to speak hurt us just a little bit, but not too much. Me and the Sparrow were always. It almost felt like we were dominating mid. I don't know if it was maybe VBM should have tried something different. Maybe Ninja Dog mid, lying on D. Maybe that would have worked a little bit better for them. But round 1 felt easy almost, and it shouldn't have. But going into round 2, that's when we really felt like the pressure from their team. That's when I kind of, as you can see in round 2, I have 80 frags compared to like the 73 I had in round 1. Thanks. I played a lot more defensive round 2. I just felt like I had to just to get the win, basically.
So that was the game that was actually live streamed this week. It was the only one. And I was on the calls with Zen. And watching the game as a guy that's doing color commentary, I'm thinking to myself in the first moments of round 1, it really felt like VBM was playing 2D. Like it was kind of like, and a lot of teams will play that map, that style where it's like, hey, you cover the left side, I cover the right side. And usually when you do that, you have a guy that's like, well, I'm the drop back guy. Like I'm going to be the guy that goes back to the base no matter what. And it just felt like they were both doing it constantly. And so FU is just sitting in mid, just dominating and pushing them around and getting whatever they want out of it, which was surprising because I'm just thinking to myself, like, oh man, like to see a team with Langrenus, Ninja Dog, just, 2 top fraggers, and then Dranzer, who's capable of being a hell of a player in his own right, get just pushed around like this. I mean, look, Stow, the Sparrow, and Poto is a great lineup. But 5-1 over that, there was 5-2. I think it was 5-2 because they got a morale cap at the end. That was impressive. That was very impressive. Now, I want to, slow down a little bit because I think some of it was just bad strategy on VBM's part. I do think they were too defensive early on. I think as the round was kind of continuing on, they picked up the pace a little bit, but at that point, the momentum was like already on FU's side. And I thought towards the end, like you did kind of see a shift at the end of round 1 where it was like they were kind of figuring out how to control mid a little bit better, apply pressure. They got a last second cap. But again, like going into the second round as a spectator, you don't know if that's just FU is like, all right, well, it's 5-1 and there's 45 seconds left. They can't score 4 flags in a row. We're just going to coast and get ready for the next round. And they kind of take their foot off the gas because it's like they're just looking ahead. But sometimes that really can help that other team that's losing like that. It's like, oh, that's how we do it. That's what we got to do. Let's just keep doing that. So going into round 2, you did get a quick cap by FU, by the way, to go up 1-0. And then it's like, oh man, like here we go again. But then it really slowed down. Then you get to the point where I believe FU went up 2-0. And I'm thinking to myself, like, dude, like, now VBM is playing really well this round. This is not VBM playing bad. This is FU just establishing control. Then they get a cap. It's 2-1. And then you can just get a bunch of like last second saves at the flag. You get 2 or 3 of them. Obviously, one at the end that I went crazy about. But the first one, I thought for sure that VBM just I stopped spectating. Like I changed who I was spectating and looked back out at mid because I'm like, oh, VBM has this. Like it's a fucking cap. And then it's like last second return. I don't even know who returned it.
I think it was
Poto.
Poto.
Was it?
Or
I know the Sparrow had a last second save as well.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh God, like, and again, like,
yeah, you're right.
Last second saves like that, they happen. 1 or 2 of them will happen. In a map like that, they shouldn't. Like, it's because the entrances to the base are not like really complex, right? Like, and there's not lines of sights to get shots off by the flag from mid. Like it's a really how do you put it? Like it's a fortified map, like where your base is like inside. So there's not a lot of angles to shoot people from. So you either hide and wait, or you get off a lucky shot from across the map, which we'll get to in a second. That first cap, that first save like that is like, if I'm VBM, like, where was the communication that base wasn't safe? You know what I mean? Like, as a defender, it's usually your job to say, like, all right, base is clear, come on in. And OJ gets that last second save. And now instead of it being 2-2 and time's running out, because that was around 3 minutes, it's 2-1. And you could just see, like, FU is like, we're not going to stop with this pressure. We're going to keep on applying pressure. And if we give up a cap, we give up a cap. But we are comfortable playing this way. And VBM is scrambling. So we get towards the end of the game. It's about 30, 45, maybe a minute left, somewhere in that time.
I think it was under a minute.
Yeah, and I'm talking, I'm explaining to Zen where it's like, look, like at that point, VBM was throwing everybody at the flag. And you could tell that FU was like kind of like, oh shoot. Like we gotta be careful here. And so VBM gets 2 guys in. They clear the 2 guys into FU's base. They clear the defense out. They get the flag. They waltz out of the base. And I'm like, oh my God, they did it. Like, you know, they cleared mid. You know, I believe it was Langrenus who got shot and killed initially, but he was low. I mean, obviously we can't see the HP as spectators, but I just seeing him taking shots throughout the mid, I was like, yeah, he's got to be low. So Style gets in the spawn. Langrenus is jumping into their base through the window. And I know what Style's thinking because we all do this as players. I'm just going to take a pot shot, and if it hits and he drops the flag, maybe I could book ass, get there and pick it up. So that's what you do. You take that shot, it hits, and you're lucky and he's low HP. And sure enough, shoots him. And I'm just like, okay, there's nobody by Langrenus. Like he could, and I'm like, oh my God, he got him. And you hear me yell that on stream because I'm looking at it. There's nobody around Langrenus to pick up the flag, which again is another question I have. Why was that not the case? And so Style just starts hauling ass over across the map, jumps over the window. The guy picks the flag up. Style shoots him. Another guy picks the flag up. They's like right in front of the flag. Style takes him down and returns the flag. And like, great play by Style. A little bit of luck, but obviously clutch play. But again, like I have to look at it like, how was it that you guys cleared mid the way that you did? And there's nobody protecting Langrenus back to the base. That's like, to have that many flags die at the flag pedestal is like a clear problem in communication. Like, yes, great players will make great plays, but for that to happen 2 times, because the reality is VBM had 2 surefire caps that were not to be because they didn't close out the caps. And you get those 2 caps, and you're talking about VBM winning round 2 3-2 instead of losing 2-1. Now, we don't know what happens. Like the game could change when another cap, like FU might have changed their strategy and been like, we need to be ultra offensive or something. So it's you can't just say they should have won 3-2 because games and strategies and approaches change as scores come in. But yeah, I mean, obviously, like round 2 was incredible, great game, and I don't know what happened round 1 because you always
Yeah,
kind of see like this rubber band effect where, and we saw it a lot this week and we saw it a lot last week, where you have a really close game in round 1. And then round 2, a team just dominates the other team, the winning team, and they sweep. And it's kind of just like that broken morale effect where they go into the next round like, oh, well, we tried. And they just kind of, and something bad goes down in the second round and they kind of just give up. This was the opposite effect. Like they got stomped round 1. And then they came back and VBM played their asses off. So, you know, I'm looking at this now like, oh man, like when these guys meet up again in the playoffs, if they do, hell of a match, and I'm ready for it.
yeah. And I think, honestly, if you go back in the past for a second on that, with that save, I can sort of explain to you why it happened so often. So it basically came down to Stal and OJ rotating their positions sometimes. You would sometimes have OJ saying, I got the armor, I'm going for a run. Right? He's pushed out far into the mid. He realizes he has an opportunity. He's like, I'm going for a run. Stal falls back a little bit, tries to keep the defense on, keeps everybody out. OJ makes it in the base. Now you got Poto and OJ in the base. So OJ is that type of player who likes to lurk around. He's not somebody who instantly just always, sometimes he does, but he doesn't just instantly book it for the flag every time. Nor does Poto. They like to screw around with the defense a little bit, right? So that you can mess up their call outs. So let's say Poto just pick up a flag and he lowers the lift, runs towards side, comes back before the lift goes up, goes top. Ninja Dog already calls outside, moves out the mid. Now he doesn't know where he is. And that happened so many times, which actually opened up those opportunities for OJ, for example, or Poto or Stal to make it in the base and get those last second saves because you got a defense player who's literally the whole game long wondering like, where are they? How did they get there? I thought they went there. I called that out. Somebody died. It had to be him, but he already respawned and got back, right? So it gives those players the opportunity to actually get in the base and do those last second saves. Now I'm going to agree with you. It shouldn't have happened as often as it did. Although it did, it shouldn't have because, you know, you got somebody like Ninja Dog. He is usually prepared for that stuff. So that was, yeah, a little bit of luck on our side, our team side.
I mean, it is, but it's like also, I think it also is like important to look at it from the perspective of how much control you had over mid. So much so that Despero could get into the base, lurk there, and go unnoticed. I mean, but the flip side of that too, though, is when you're clearing mid and you're carrying a flag across mid into your base to score, it's a numbers game. Like, you know, like, well, I only killed 2 people. Where's the third person?
Yeah.
Like, that should be called out. And like, I had a team last season that I played in the WDL that had an issue with that because we had somebody that didn't communicate very well. And when you're getting caps like that, like a lot of times, like it's like 3 men on the pedestal. Make sure that there's somebody to be there if there's somebody lurking. And those are just small things that, you know, get kind of glossed over. And sometimes, yeah, it's luck, but a lot of times it's if you're putting your team in a position where you're establishing map control constantly through dominating mid and applying pressure and getting more quality touches, you're going to give yourself better odds to make those last second returns. I mean, the odds are against you, but if you are doing it consistently, obviously you're doing something that works. Obviously you're doing something that makes it more likely for you to pull it off. And again, like I still go back to round 1. Like, what was that strategy where VBM kind of just got smoked and it looked like they were sitting in a 2D set? And it makes me wonder, like, did they kind of just switch up strategy mid-game or mid-series because they realized round 1 wasn't working? And usually that's where you get those last-second saves like that. It's like, well, we haven't really practiced the strategy. You know what I mean? So either way, I mean, it was a great game, especially round 2. Even round 1, even though you guys kind of won going away round 1, it was kind of just like sitting back and saying, like, I think my words on stream was something to the effect of, I can't tell you any time I've ever seen a Ninja Dog team get pushed back like this. Like, I've never seen it. I've seen Ninja Dog teams lose before, but not get pushed around like this. And that, I wonder too, what's Dranzer's level of play, because I consider Dranzer to be just as good as everybody in that server. And it's like it's time to start asking, like, are we getting what we need out of him? Dranzer's been a runner before, but he's kind of a fraggy runner, and sometimes he stops and spends too much time fragging instead of just booking it from end to end and getting that cap. I wonder if that's a conversation that needs to be had. Is Skull Rush around? Because Skull Rush, what you lose in fragging power with them, you gain in, that running capacity. So maybe that's something that they explore too. I don't know. Like, these are things that obviously VBM is going to have to look into. And I think even you guys as FU, like, looking at round 2, I mean, what do we have to do to make it so that we don't need to get 2 last-second saves at the pedestal to win a game? Because obviously that's not something you want to rely on either.
No, not at all.
And on some level too, like, you just have to say, well, VBM is also a good team and they beat us in a round. That's going to happen too. Like, losing a close game doesn't mean you burn down the ship, but you still have to look at things and be like, well, why did this happen? And typically when you win games, you're less likely to look at your weaknesses as opposed to when you lose them. And that's why sometimes you'll see teams, case in point, DMB, get their asses beat the first week and then come out the second week and dominate a good team. Because they're like, oh, that's what's wrong with us. Let's address it. Whereas if you win, you might not think about it that much. You're like, well, look what we're doing so well. But like, as a captain, I always have that mentality. Even when we're winning, I'm like, dude, we're not doing this well. Like, this could come back to bite us. So great week. I mean, week 2 was great. Really compelling matches. And obviously, Bones, I'll let that segue into what we're going to get into next.
Which is week 3.
Is week 3.
Turning the page on week 2. Week 3 is, if you look at the standings, it's really interesting. So there's 2 teams with 10 points, 2 teams with 5, and 2 teams with 0. And they all play each other. So you've got the 2 teams that have 0 points going against each other. You've got the 2 teams with 5 points and the 2 teams with 10 points playing each other. So the standings are going to get kind of thrown all over the place this week, which is actually really exciting. And it's a really interesting map too. It's Heavy Weapon Dudes, which is part of Smart CTF 2, which is one of those maps where we've got a BFG. So let me just throw it up real fast and see. So I don't know, like, I played this map once, like for 1 week. We practiced it. We lost pretty badly, but that seems to be the story of the last couple seasons of my playing career. But I really thought, like, I don't know how much impact the BFG actually has. I know that people use it, and the thing that's interesting about it is you've got to go through a teleport to get into the BFG, and then once you grab it, you have to wait. What is it, like? I don't know how long.
30
it is.
seconds.
You have to wait. 30 seconds. Okay, so you have to wait 30 seconds in order to get the BFG again. So really, when somebody gets it, they can be pretty dominant around the map. And there's all these different areas that you can go. You've got the top route there. You've got the tunnel. You've got the main one. So it's kind of the epitome of a teamwork map. I don't know if there people tend to focus too much on the BFG, but I don't know. I'm curious to hear what you guys think about how you think this map's going to play, because there are not many maps like this in the WOD. Well, probably, but there's not many maps like this in the WOD. Well, since you think it's going to play like shit, let's hear from Hate first, because
I was just joking. It's a fun map.
Yeah,
somebody else go ahead. I've talked enough.
Okay.
Well, the thing with this map is, honestly, I like this map. Because back when Chain Dude was making these maps in, I think it was 2020, during the COVID-19 pandemic, we were actually talking on voice chat quite a lot. And I asked him, like, wouldn't it be cool if you had a map with like a BFG, but it acts like a power-up? It's not like that old Z Damon map where you press a button and then just go pick up the BFG, the whole team gets it, and you blast into the enemy base and spawn frag someone with the BFG and do one of those frag montages from Z Damon back in the day where you go like monster kill until you get a domination by just standing still in one point. And he kind of said like, yeah, it's pretty cool, and then he sort of like didn't do anything with it. And a couple weeks later, he came up with this map, Heavy Weapon Dudes, and he said like, yo, I got this idea, man. And he showed it to us, and I was like, this is actually really fucking interesting, right? Because you have a BFG right there, and if you play it properly, you got a guy with a green armor running to the mid, controlling mid. You walk into the teleporter, get the BFG full health. Now what do? Right? You can move back and go top. Take the least the least dangerous route. If you grab the flag and you have your full stack and the BFG, you're basically out. All you have to do is shoot like the walls in front of you, and the tracers are going to take care of whatever's in front of them or trying to pre-fire you. They will die. And you're just going to get out. And then all it takes once you get in your base is shooting the BFG backwards so that whatever is walking towards you will die. And if you execute that properly, I think this is going to be a really, really, really dangerous map for those players like who do not have power-up control, and going to be a really exponentially good map, a map that is going to work well in somebody's favor if you really control that. Because I think that BFG could be, if played properly, because you could also die instantly as soon as you get it. Like if you get lucky, that BFG could be a cap run. I think, at least. I've played it in WDL before in the practice and stuff, and it did make somewhat of a difference sometimes. Not for all teams, because you had, games where two teams didn't really care about the BFG, and they basically treated it as like a blue armor. They pick it up and just fire it in the mid and die. But if executed properly, I think it might actually be a really, really, really useful mechanic.
I think this map is really fun and very unique. Like you said, the BFG acts kind of like a power-up. I don't know if there's any other map that ever did that. Not to that I know of. Anyway,
there is, but not like I'm thinking of the old. What ZDCTF map had the BFG inside the little lava cage, and you could kind of treat it like it could. It's like a jungle map, kind of like in a
cave?
volcano. Yeah, like in a volcano.
I know which one you mean. Yeah, it has like really
And there was
high
crawl space as
like
well.
slopes, and you open up the bars, and then you walk through it, grab the BFG, and then you go up and then you have that little small flag base, right?
Yeah.
And it was a plasma which you could only reach by jumping on one of those stalagmites. Yeah.
And it was, I mean, honestly, like that was not a good map. Crawl space is one that Wiz brought up, which is true too, but crawl space is just so congested it didn't matter. Like you usually just beat the shit out of each other with the super shotgun. So yeah, Style's right. Like I think at this right, it's unique. So go ahead, Style. I'm sorry.
yeah, I mean it's a fun map. A little hard, very hard to D on because there's so many ways in, so many ways out. There's so many corners people could hide on. Tiger. It's just there's so much health to pick up as well. It's just a mess. It's literally a mess. Maybe we can see more maps with the BFG as a power up in the future. I'm pretty sure some people will adapt this idea and make it their own. But yeah, I love the map. I have nothing really bad to say about it other than like I dislike it personally because it's really hard to defend on, and I've only played defense mostly anyway. But yeah, great map. Look forward to playing NLG on it.
So, and we'll use that as a segue here in a moment. But yeah, I mean, it's going to take a lot to make it work. It's really hard to make a BFG map work in CTF, and I think this is the right idea. Make it a power up, and make it timed and controlled, so it's not just there all the time. Where if a team gets control of it, it just kind of acts as a, how can you put it? Like if a BFG is always available and a team is controlling a map, that BFG isn't going to be what separates the teams from winning or losing. it's just going to be what exponentially increases their lead. But if they were controlling already, they were probably going to win. With it being timed, only available every 30 seconds, it's like, well, we both have to fight for it, and we know when it's coming up. So it's interesting in that sense.
I have the perfect example. Have you ever played Tie on D5M1?
Yes.
Every spawn, Tie
Every spawn.
right to the BFG.
Beelines
every single time. And that's the difference. If that BFG was timed on D5M1, I don't know what Tie would do. So I agree. You have to use it as a power up. This is a really cool, unique idea that Shane did.
Yeah.
And I
leaving D.
And I made the joke earlier, but I actually think the map plays really well. It is really unique. And it's also one of those maps that it's like, if you play it in a private setting, you might be like, well, man, this map sucks. I don't see what people like about it. But if you've ever had the opportunity to play it in a competitive setting, very different map. And look, like that was the intention of the Smart CTF series, is we're designed for competitive play. And it achieves that. So I'm with Stal. I'm with Denzel. I like it. It's a lot of fun. It's kind of one of those maps as a defender where you're just going to have to live with the fact that flags are going to get out. Your job as a defender isn't stop them in their tracks at the flag. Your job is keep them in the base and prevent them from getting across mid. So it's a little different that way, and it requires communication, which leads us into week 3, Bones. So I'll let you segue because Stal talked about their match.
It does. I wasn't going to talk about that match first, but because it works so well. We've got the two teams with 10 points playing each other, NLG and FU. And I mean, it's hard to give a prediction about this, but I think it's really interesting. I don't know how much NLG is going to favor using the BFG. I mean, if anyone was going to do it, I would say it would be Legion. Legion would be the one that they'd say, okay, you mess around with the BFG and you do all the annoying shit that nobody wants to do. And then they have Ross King go in and grab the flag. That's how I see it going, but I don't know how much focus they're going to put on it, because I think, to your point of what you said earlier, NLG and Ross King specifically is focused on touches. So anything that gets in his way of touching the flag is going to be detrimental to their game. FU, on the other hand, I feel like they will focus a little bit more on the BFG. I think it actually plays better to their strengths to focus on it. I think they have so much frag power that they can afford to use one person to focus on the BFG. So I really don't know who they would play, because they've trotted out different lineups each week. So it could be any one of them that sits, but it's sort of interchangeable again. A prediction: I really think FU is going to take this one in 2 rounds. Well, I don't want to say 2. I'm going to say 3 rounds. And I think it's going to be close. But I do think FU is going to have more. I don't know. They're just going to have more in this game. But I'm happy to be proven wrong. And don't hate me in the comments.
So obviously, I know Stal and Densoa can only say so much since they're actually playing in the game. Now, if they're feeling confident and bold enough to come out and give predictions in their own right, they can. But I'll go ahead and take the lead from that before I give them a chance to put up bulletin board material. I think I disagree. I think NLG might be more likely to go after the BFG for the reason you mentioned, Legion. I think Poto could probably pull it off a lot, but I also think that as game-changing as the BFG can be in that map, and as much as it can act like a power-up, it can also be a trap. Like, obsessing over getting control of the BFG in place of getting flag touches can actually be a detriment to you. And I think the BFG is a perfect complement, but not a solution. I look at these matchups, and I got these guys here, and they're both going to kill me. I don't like FU in this map. And not because I don't think they're capable of playing this style. I do. I just think this is a map that screams Ross King. And that's going to be very difficult to deal with. And let me be clear. If FU won 10-0, I wouldn't be surprised either. But like if I'm looking at this map, I just feel like this is a Ross King type of map. And this is the type of map where it fits a team like them perfectly. Like FU is very good. FU kind of has what Stal and I joke about, like kind of like that dopey bruiser mentality and lineup, even though that's not what they are. I mean, they're very frag heavy, but they have a lot of running prowess. I think NLG is going to kind of not dominate, but get too close, like two pretty convincing wins and go 2-0 in this one. It's something like a 5-3, 5-2, just because I think it's such a bad matchup for FU. But again, like, love them. I'm rooting for FU. They're my team. And I think this is a potential finals preview. So go FU, but unfortunately, I think NLG is going to take this.
Well, honestly, I can't really say too much about this because I don't want to give away any strategies or whatever. Not like we have any yet. Who knows, right? But yeah, I think NLG is definitely going to be a really tough team on this map. But honestly, I don't think we have to worry all too much because we have Poto, one of the best jump maze players, and this map just screams jump maze. There's so many jumps you can do, and his movement is top notch, right? It's better than most players, almost any player. He's so smooth with it. It's like you'll see him running out and you'll be trying to SR50 after him and you'll be wondering why you can't catch up with him. Because he just has that like insane amount of control over his movement. So, Poto is always going to be that 100% for sure guy that's going to play. And I think he's going to, I'm not to say necessarily that he's going to run circles around the Mar, but I think he's going to get out a lot of flags and pressure a Mar just enough for whoever on our team is going to play, me, Stal, me, the Sparrow, Stal, the Sparrow, who knows, we're all interchangeable. I think that's going to give us enough like chances. I'm not saying it's going to give us the win. I'm just going to say it's going to give us enough chances to potentially win the game for us. You never know. It could be that Poto might want to play mid. You never know. It could be anything. And that's the good thing about our team. Most of us can play every position. And we can switch it up as much as we want. So we can come out swinging from whatever angle. And yeah, I think it's going to be a fun matchup, honestly, because I do got to admit I am a little bit scared of NLG. You got Amar, really good defense player, low ping, will always shoot first. Got Rosking, also a low ping player, shoots first as well. Good reaction time, really good running skills. That's dangerous as hell. Is freaking dangerous. And then you got Legion, one of those lurking players that I mentioned earlier in one of the games that we talked about. Lurking players are the worst, man, especially in maps like these where you've got so many routes to go. You'll never know where he is. So yeah, thinking about it is kind of scary. We do have to find a way to, completely shut that down, which is going to be hard. So yeah, we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if they win. They're good. They're really good. That's the thing. It's not like I'm going in there thinking like this is 100% win, right? You're always keeping it in the back of your head like this could go anyway. And that's the crappy part about it. That's like the scary part about playing this game is like you will not know how it goes until it's happening. And you'll have to adjust your mental state as you go. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
I think with both of our teams, we're probably the two most complete and well-rounded teams. I mean, that just shows both of us have two wins in each week. I don't want to say too much about it because I don't want to jinx myself, but they're going to be good games. They're going to be close. I think Poto might have the edge on Amar on a map like this, just because there's so many ways in, so many ways out. Like I explained earlier, armor, health galore, corners to hide in. Not many rocket jumps, not that I'm aware of, anyway. Jumps because he's jump maze god, apparently.
Yeah, he is.
But other than that, I just want to say it's going to be a great game. Looking forward to it. Cab, bring your A game.
Oh, you better.
And you thought? You know it's coming.
Yeah.
Ain't gonna go easy.
Well, you know what else is coming, and I'm gonna keep talking so we don't focus on the way that sounded. Was the two games, the
Let's
two
talk
teams in
about
the
that.
middle. Yep, no, we're not gonna. We're gonna keep talking. VBN and DNB, they both got 5 points, so this is a pretty crucial game for them. I mean, I think the good thing about this game for those two teams is that they can afford to lose it. It wouldn't be ideal, but if they lost it, they wouldn't be out of it completely. And so these are the two teams that, I think talent-wise, like they're on par with the two teams at the top of the leaderboard, but they've had some issues. VBM did really well week 1, not so well week 2. DNB was the opposite. So I think the key in this game is someone that we talked about earlier, and that's Ed. Like, will Ed play? If Ed shows up, I don't know. I think DNB might have the edge over VBM. If Ed doesn't show up and they have to use Salt Mine, again, Salt Mine is a monster player in the making, but also it's a difficult map. It's not straightforward. It's not, I would be surprised to see somebody get close to 100 frags on this map. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but they're gonna have to use like some different strategies on this map. So I don't know that I see, these super frag heavy like stats coming out of this game. So I don't know. I if Ed plays, I want to pick DNB. I'm not sure. But that's not to knock, especially with the fact that Lang will not be playing in this game, so they will be relying on Skull Rush on VBM. And Skull Rush is not a joke. He's won many times and should be feared just as much as Lang. So it's just something about this map fitting the DNB style to me. Just makes me want to pick them to win. So I think I'm going to pick them. And I don't know how many rounds. I don't know, probably not 2, but maybe 2. I don't know. They're going to win probably in 2 rounds.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you there.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think DNB is a more complete team right now. You got to keep in mind they have to play Skull Rush, right? Because of what happened during this week and the penalty that was given. So, Skull Rush hasn't really been playing much. So I don't know if he's gonna have that synergy with the team. Because it's always kind of like, I remember when I used to be a 4th player on a team, you sometimes feel kind of like disappointed that you don't get played at least 1 round, or that you don't get to practice as much with the main lineup, at least. Like, you practice on the other team usually. And I'm kind of curious to see how he's going to react to actually having to play this week. And I mean, he's a really good offense player. But as you said, this map is just so heavily in favor of DNB's playstyle, especially with Infer, also a good jump maze player, will know exactly which jumps to do. Xwiz, good fragger, low ping, really good reaction time. That's a deadly friggin' combo. So then you got possibly Salt Mine or Ed, either of the two. I think the better option would be Salt Mine. He is a more reliable player in the sense that he will play his position reliably, faithfully. He will not stray away from his position. Xwiz can say Salt Mine defend, and Salt Mine is going to defend all game long. He's going to do his damnedest to do a good job, and he's going to play insanely well. He will. I guarantee you that. And I hope they play Salt Mine again, at least one round, and then maybe Ed, or maybe Ed first and Salt Mine. Because if Ed is going to bring his A game, this could potentially become a wipe, in my opinion. If they put Infer on offense, and then Xwiz maybe on middle, and Ed on defense. You're not getting past Ed. If he's playing for real and he's serious and he does not want you to get into and out the base, you're not going to. That's the thing with Ed. He has a gift. His aim is gifted. He doesn't miss. If he doesn't want to miss, he doesn't miss. So much so that back in the day, people used to call him an aimbotter. Even before like anything, he always aimed so well. He's so gifted in that aspect. So if he just brings his A game, I'm gonna say that this is going to go 2 rounds. DMB wins.
So go ahead, Stal. I want you to go.
Yep.
I want to see what you have to say.
I agree. I think DNB really turned a chapter, or turned the page on last week. They're playing way better together with the lineup they had in week 2 than week 1, unfortunately, for Ed. I think Ed's a great player. I just don't think his commitment level is at the same level as the other 3. Hopefully we could see that Ed back. I mean, I think we all want to see that Ed back from WDL 2020, right?
Yeah.
But even with Lang, I just think that the communication from DNB is going to set them apart in this matchup. I've listened in on Wiz's communication, or not Wiz's, SFP last season, just to see what it sounded like. And these guys, Salt Mine included, they were all going at it. And I assume that's the same situation this season with Wiz and Salt Mine, just keeping that momentum from last season. What am I looking for? That chemistry, the chemistry that they had from last season into this, it's just going to carry them and get them the win for sure. I say 2-0. It's not going to be close.
I am in agreement that DMB is going to win, but I think they're going to win 2-1. And the reason why is I think undoubtedly Salt Mine and Xwiz and Infer, or not Infer, Infer, but undoubtedly good squad, right? Really good. Play really well together. We got that. I just think that there's going to be kind of this, not arrogant, but they're going to look past VBM just a little bit because they don't have Langrenus. I think you look at Ninja Dog, Dranzer, and Skull Rush, which, by the way, if that's a well-practiced team, that's a scary team. Obviously, we don't know how well-practiced they're going to be together. I just have this feeling that Ninja Dog's going to hero around. That's what I'm basing this on. I'm with you guys. I think your analysis is pretty much spot on. We have every reason to think that DMB is going to 2-0 this and dominate. I just have a feeling that maybe you see kind of like a round 1 comfortable win by DMB, and then you just get Ninja Dog, and maybe Dranzer has a hell of a game too. They just kind of pull one out of their ass in a round 2, kind of like a 5-4 like shootout. And then DMB turns around in round 3 and wipes the floor with them. But that would be big if they got a win, because they would still get points. And at this point in the season, that would basically get them into the postseason. Because going into next week, you're looking at a match where you've got 2 0-2 teams playing with one. And one team will practically be, if not outright, eliminated mathematically if they lose that game. Usually I have OJ's really good at those scenarios, but I'm thinking we'll get into that next round. But yeah, I'm just going to go. GMB is going to win, but I think it's going to be 2-1. I think that they're going to. I think VBM is going to find a way to hero a match out, get those points, and put themselves in the standings pretty comfortably to advance to the postseason.
And looking ahead to our last game, we've got the two teams with 0 points. So again, this is a really pivotal, important game for these two teams because if you think about it, whichever team loses really does not have a chance to make the playoffs. I mean, maybe it's not. Again, we should ask OJ about that, but I think it's pretty much impossible for them to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I
so,
mean 0-3 with one game left. I mean, can you?
Yeah,
Could you...
I don't think so, unless someone in fourth. If someone in fourth only has 5 points, then you could kind of make it work that way. But
I would have to write. I would have to write it down, and I'm not writing it down. It's too late.
Yeah, we're not.
Well, unless
we're not
they win in 3 this week, and then next week lose in 2, and then the team that lost week 3 wins in 2, they would have 5 points versus the 4.
That's true.
I mean, like I said, I don't think that. But even just like looking at it, I don't think they're mathematically eliminated. But
No.
I think
if they lose, it's going to be
spirit-wise,
very difficult.
Yeah.
The losers, they're going to be in a bad spot. It's unlikely that they'll make the postseason.
Yeah.
So looking at how these teams have played, honestly, if you look at their stats, right, they're actually quite close.
Yeah.
Both teams have only captured 6. There's a 20 frag differential ish, and they've leaked about the same amount of flags. So you can't really. I mean, the stats are hard. I would say that the team that's shown the most ability to win is TWT. I think that this map suits them really well also. I recall watching Tiger play on this map when he was on Suck with Ralph and Blair a couple seasons ago, and he did really well here. And so you have that combination with Daston, and like this map's kind of built for them, I feel like. And with Warrior doing so well playing defense, I feel like they're going to be in good shape. And ORB is kind of like, I don't know, I feel like they haven't solidified their lineup. You know, they don't know what they're doing with Shane. They played Shane week 1, they played Seneca week 2. Neither one really gave them the result that they wanted. So I'm not sure that they have that solid lineup that they want. So I don't know. To me, this just screams a 2-0 victory for TWT. I think they're the more well put together team. They've had a couple bad breaks, maybe some things that they need to figure out. But they're going to come in this game and keep themselves alive for the playoffs.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think I would like ORB. I would like their chances a little bit better in any other map other than this. But I think in this map, I'm with you. The edge is just completely to TWT. I think both teams have shown. Like they've had some really good moments where they've shown they can compete with the top teams, but then they've had some really bad moments too. So looking at this, I think the one thing you could say for TWT, I think you're right, Bones. It's their lineup is solidified. We know who's going to play. We know what their issues are, but we still know who's going to play. With ORB, you don't really know. I mean, I have to think at this point, you'd want to play Seneca in this map. This kind of is more to his style. But yeah, I think I see TWT winning this in 2 rounds. Not particularly close, even though I think ACC, Nexus, Seneca, Shane, all good players and capable of playing on any map. I think that this just favors a player like Tiger. It's been Daston too. Don't sleep on Daston in this map either. I think it's too much in their favor. So yeah, I'm with you. TWT goes 2-0 in this.
I'm going to go ahead and say this is going to be probably a 4 or 5 rounder.
Oh, okay.
And the reason why is that TWT, again, doesn't have the greatest comms. And this map, you need to be very specific. If there's a flag standoff, you need to be very specific where your flag is. Because if you don't know, it's going to take you a while to figure out where the hell they are. On the other side, ORB, they do have comms. They might want to use Shane this week for that reason, because Seneca doesn't speak. other than bro.
Bro.
Bro. But yeah, I think I mean I'd hate to be in Nexus's shoes right now and have to play against Dastin and Tiger. It's gonna be a mess. But I think like those two advantages that each team has are just gonna offset each other, and it's gonna be a close one. It's gonna be a real close one. It's gonna be a one to watch this week for sure. Actually, all three games are gonna be the one to watch, but I'm looking forward to watching this one.
Yeah. Honestly, so am I. I'm going to have to agree with Stel here. I think it's going to be quite a couple of games. And I think it's basically going to come down to whoever is going to have the best communication. And we all know it's going to be ORB, considering the fact that, they use their microphones. And yeah, I just in a map like that, I think it's too big of a handicap to not be communicating with your team. Your defense, at least this is one map where it's actually a positive to have comms from the defense, at least, because, knowing where the enemies are going to be coming from is important, but most of the time you will know just by being a good judge of what's happening, really having good game sense, let's say. For example, if Warrior, if he's defending a little further back in the base, more towards the mid, and he can see somebody running, he will know instantly, like, okay, they're not coming top, they're not coming main. I saw some dudes on the right, most likely tunnels. He can fall back, and then he can call out wherever the enemy is exiting from. So that's in this map. It doesn't matter as much if your mid is not telling you. Although, going back on that, if you don't know if there's a BFG dude coming in, you might be screwed, which is kind of tough, right? As a defense player, I'm not saying that would be a 100% guaranteed cap. I'm just saying as a defense player, you might be screwed, because if he just comes around the corner and blasts a BFG ball on the wall, you might die. He grabs the flag, and now you have no way to communicate where the guy is going. And on a map like that, that's dangerous, because if, let's say, Warrior gets the back spawn and the guy's going mid, who's there to call it out that he's gone mid? Who's there to say, oh, he's hiding in the med kits up top, for example, right? You don't have those call outs, because you don't have, they're most likely not going to have it all bound. It's going to be too much buttons to press. So I think Dastin is really, really, really going to have to try his best to use his microphone. And yeah, just because of that, I think it's going to be a 3 to 4 rounder maybe in ORB's favor.
All right, well, real fast. I know Hate needs to go to bed. I need to use the bathroom. Stal wanted to do the MVP for week 2 and who we thought.
I already know who mine is. Go ahead.
Okay.
You guys go.
I'm going to go. I'm going to pick Xwiz. I think it's really easy for a team to lose it after, kind of a shitty week 1. And he rallied his team and got a ton of caps in the process. So Xwiz is my vote.
I'm going to go with Sparrow. The dude played phenomenal for us. Absolutely phenomenal. Just really held it down against so much pressure at times, especially like round 2. Crazy.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with that. That's the reason why I chose the Sparrow as well. Stal did a really good job, but, the Sparrow was just, his communication was on point. It was perfect. It was just perfect. There was nothing he could improve about it. He just did so good. And you got to give it to him. He is, in my opinion, the best high ping player there is in CTF. I think so. And he's a force to be reckoned with. So, yeah, I'm definitely going to go with OJ. Not because he's on my team, but just because, even when he was lagging, when his ping went over 200, he still kept it together. And he still kept the guys out somehow. Don't ask me how. I was ready to join. He said, "No, it's okay." So, yeah, OJ all day.
So I'm going to stick with the same game, same team, but a different player. And it's solo pizza only. I'm actually going with Stal. And Despero was fantastic. Don't get me wrong. But in round 2 when they needed plays most, Sparrow made one. Not only did Stal have that last second save, by the way, that secured the game, Stal also had the cap that put them up 2-1 or 2-0. That really was like, that was the difference. That was basically the game winner. And Stal was also just getting like, and I said it on stream. I was like, he does this all the time where he's like, I'm going to take a run at the flag. And he knows exactly when to do it as a defender. And I cannot tell you over the years how many times he's done that and he's just gone base to base and scored. Because
Isn't it
he
annoying?
runs
It's very
at the
annoying.
perfect. Well, it's because he knows the time. Like he's like,
That's why it's annoying.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna say, like, and on top of that, he's got that pressure bearing down on him on defense. I know they're rotating a lot. I know but Stal was really good. So Stal's my MVP. Made really big plays, got scores, saves, solid across the board. So, and then I would say probably Wiz is kind of up there too. Big props to him and Saltmine. Saltmine was one that didn't play week 1 and had a big game. So. Those are the 3 players. Stal's my MVP, but I just want to give a couple other players some love too.
Thanks, guys. That'll do it for week 2. Some really exciting games coming up for week 3. We will see you 1 week from today. Talking about week 3, looking into week 4. Have a great week.
Bye, friends.
Good evening.
So, yep.
Take care.